with them, or?
Want me to turn my volume up?
Yes, please.
Try it again, Alderman Dean.
It's not how volume works.
I can talk louder.
There,
That's
that's
perfect.
good.
That's good. Alderman Dowd? Alderman Dowd, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Oh, geez, there he is.
I will call the regular or slightly irregular meeting of Board of Aldermen to order at 7:43. The prayer will be offered by City Clerk Patricia Pietza, and Alderman Clemmons will lead us in the pledge to the flag.
Almighty God, we have the high honor and the serious duty to manage the affairs of our beloved city. Fill us, O God, with the spirit of unity and understanding, which enables us to face our multiple problems with a serene mind, with justice and charity for all, so that any and all decisions made by us will always be for the betterment and greater happiness of all our fellow citizens. So help us God. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before I ask the clerk to take the roll, Alderman Dean and Alderman Dowd are participating by telephone. I need to ask them why they can't attend, if they can hear us, and who they are with. Alderman Dean?
I am out of town. I am with, I'm by myself, and I can hear you clearly.
Alderman Dowd?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm on vacation. I'm in Lucerne, Switzerland. I'm by myself.
Okay.
Sounds like fun.
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Wilshire. Here. Alderman Clemmons.
Here.
Alderman Dean.
Here.
Alderman Cookson.
Present.
Alderman Dowd.
Present.
Alderman Karen.
Here.
Alderman Siegel.
Present.
Alderman Schoeneman. Here. Alderwoman Malizia Gola. Present. Alderman McGinnis.
Here.
Alderman LeBrun.
Here.
Alderman Moriarty.
I'm here.
Alderman O'Brien.
Present.
Alderman Lopez.
I'm here.
Alderman McCarthy.
Present.
We have 15 members present.
Also present, Corporation Counsel Stephen Bolton and His Honor Mayor James W. Dodges. Does the mayor wish to address the board?
Yes, Mr. President. I wanted to address two issues with you tonight. Both are on the agenda. The first is the safe stations transfer. You have on your desk tonight a report regarding the statistics on the safe stations program through yesterday. First, I want to say and thank the fire department, NFR, our firefighters, Harbor Homes, and AMR, and everyone else who's been participating in this program, because it has been more successful than we thought it would be at the beginning. As you can see, over 500 people have reported to a safe station. Many of them are in recovery. In addition, the number of people reporting has been going up from one a day or so at the beginning. Now it's averaging closer to 3 a day. And as you can see from the overdose report, there apparently has been an impact on the number of overdoses, even overdose calls, which of course our fire department already responds to. Even though the drugs are becoming more powerful, and you can see that from the level of Narcan that's being administered, even though the drugs are becoming more powerful, now we have more fentanyl, carfentanil than before. The number of overdoses still bouncing up and down a little bit, but is consistently lower than last year. Therefore, we want to support this program as much as we can. Harbor Homes has been suffering a deficit in the area of transportation. As you will recall, Harbor Homes, pick up any person who reports to any of our fire stations 24 hours a day seeking help, reports within, on an average of less than 12 minutes. And in order to do that, drivers have to be on call. They're suffering or sustaining a deficit in this year of about a little over $100,000. Some of that money has been raised. We are asking that Out of contingency, we transfer $50,000 to Harbor Homes to help them cover the transportation costs, which will leave still a gap of about $50,000, but we believe we can obtain those funds from elsewhere. This has been unanimously, I believe, recommended by the Budget Committee, and I would ask for your endorsement of that proposal tonight. Secondly, the city budget is on the agenda. I want to thank the Budget Committee, first of all, for all of the time that the members have put in reviewing the budget, talking to our departments, and seeking to understand the budget and make the most constructive and positive changes that they possibly can. It's never easy to serve on the committee, having done it myself, and I hope I tried to make your job a little easier this year by providing an extra 2 weeks. I think the Budget Committee was very thorough, and again, I want to thank them for all of their efforts. They've recommended the overall priorities we've discussed before, maintaining our efforts against the opioid crisis through maintaining the police department at current levels, also maintaining the fire department at current levels. They, of course, are very involved with responding to the OD calls and with respect to the Safe Stations program. Also, including full-day kindergarten, which is being offset in large part by other reductions, And those, I think, are the main priorities. The opioid crisis, taking advantage of the opportunity to create full-day kindergarten, which has, for all 12 elementary schools, we currently have it at 5. This would expand it to an additional 7 schools and make it 12. Take advantage of the opportunity to do that through a realignment of some of the priorities within the school department. Now, the Budget Committee has recommended 3 changes. Number 1, a reduction in the capital improvements, overall capital improvements budget of $200,000, an offsetting increase in the budget for police overtime. There's a reserve account in case there are a group of serious crimes. That reserve account is down very low at this point. And third, so that's 2, the reduction of 200, the addition of 200, and third, the addition of $191,000 to pay for the radio maintenance. These are changes that I can support were you to pass them. Of course, I would sign the budget if you make these changes. There's an additional possibility that I've heard some aldermen discuss, which is to, in order to keep the budget bottom line where it is, and in order to give a little more time and vetting to the maintenance of the radios, that be reduced and taken out of the proposed changes to leave the budget where it is in terms of the bottom line. I can say that if you make that change, if you think that's a good idea, I would be glad to include in the escrows proposed in the fall from already appropriated money the $191,000 for the radio maintenance so that you can review that further. I think that the people who've said that that should be included have made a strong argument. Some aldermen may want to ask more questions, but I would be glad if that were not an item in the budget at this time to include it in the escrow process. I think that summarizes the situation and the budget, Mr. President. So I would ask those who are here and all those who are not to seriously consider the budget, and I would ask you to support it with your votes tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Are there any
Mr. President.
responses to the remarks of the mayor? We had skipped over the traditional motion on procedural actions, so I will recognize Alderman Wilshire to make that now.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion that the rules be so far suspended as to allow for the acceptance of procedural actions without objection.
Motion is that the rules be so far suspended as to allow for the acceptance of procedural actions without objection. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Dean.
Yes.
Alderman Cookson.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderman Karen.
Yes.
Alderman Siegel. Alderman Schoeneman. Alderwoman Malizi Gola.
Yes.
Alderman McGinnis.
Yes.
Alderman LeBrun.
Yes.
Alderman Moriarty.
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman McCarthy.
Yes.
We have 15 yeas.
And that motion carries. Recognition period.
There is none.
Reading the minutes of the previous meeting and the public hearing. If there are no objections, the minutes of the Board of Aldermen meetings of May 23rd, 2017, and those of the public hearings conducted by the Board of Aldermen on June 6th, 2017, and the Planning and Economic Development Committee on May 16th, 2017, are accepted and placed on file. And the readings will be suspended. Communications.
There are none.
Period for public comment. 2 persons have signed up. Dick, can't read your last name, but. Ionic.
It's not nice to hear a vote of all ayes. Haven't heard that in a long time. That's great. I'd like to second the comments from the mayor first and thank everyone for, it's been a hard job. The budget job is one of the toughest jobs that any community can have across this entire country. Not only the entire country, but look what's happening overseas. We need to pay attention. This is a very important vote tonight. This is a major, major move going forward. You know, there are a lot of people in Illinois that wish they had the opportunity to change what they voted on and thought about 20 years or so ago. Many people in Puerto Rico, many people in Greece. The budget is important. 2 things tonight. First, people would love to be able to have a budget without the numbers. I hate to call it games, but that's what people around town are talking about. And wouldn't it be nice if we could have a budget which 3 and 2 does not equal 4. 3 and 2 does equal 5, no matter how you slice it. Or maybe 2 and 3 equals 4. No, it's 5. So that's the first issue, that we really should be looking at this budget. The people wanted a cap. There should be a cap. No matter what you call it, we don't have that. The other issue was not mentioned as one of the major items, but maybe I'm wrong here. I thought one of the major expenses was putting the money into the pension account. That's running as one of our largest expenditures. And you know, what's fascinating to me is that this is not a new problem. This has been going on for years, right? And it's kind of like this is one of the major reasons, again, why across this country, most of the major problems are being caused from pensions. Now, the state started to recognize this back in 2009 and 11. They did some good work. They made some changes. A bunch of us would call regularly and ask for changes, where you had a system which paid for the 3 years, highest 3 years, and they included salaries plus overtime. They finally changed went to 5 years. Well, that was a help in the system. And they also said, okay, we want to become fully funded. Now, what's fascinating to me is that New Hampshire has this great rating. Yet one of the things we're trying to do here is have all the current people now in the community pick up the tab for things that should have been done a long time ago. All I'm suggesting is that we probably should look at the alternatives which may come up this year. Do not lock ourselves in to commitments, which are going to raise, was it 3.8%? I think it was interesting, in the last 8 years, there have only been 3 years in the history of the Social Security, we had 0 increases. All 3 have been in the last 8 years. No one's had to raise the 3.8% at all. It's difficult, I understand that, but we need to look at these items. For example, there's a possibility, now what they did was they said, okay, back in 2009, we're going to get this up to 100% funded in 30 years. We're now 8 years into it. We have 22 years to go. I've been asked to say, look, we need to relook at this thing. You know, I hate to push off the debt, but you know what? We're hurting right now. We need to spread it out in some way. Then they turned around, unfortunately, and they had the right to, which they should have done earlier on, is they were assuming a rate of return of 7.75, right? And so what got us into more trouble? They reduced that rate down to 7.25. So now the current people are, again, think about that in your own 401ks or anything else, what it means to people. So now we have to come up with this money, 7.25, and, you know, our outlook is believe me, we're not looking for interest rates to go soaring. I don't know what anyone else's viewpoints are, but we're not looking for them to go soaring. We may be here for a while, for a little bit longer. So every time we go through another year and they're assuming 7.25, which I hope they can do. And they did it by taking some chances. The investments are now down to only 25% fixed. They're 75% variable. I know everyone's happy with the stock market, what's going on in their investments, but you know what? 75-25. How can we do this going forward? You know, put us back a number of years, younger period of time. You bought a house. You got to have a budget. I used to do this workshop, and I'd say to people, okay, look at the budget. What's fixed? Everyone raised their hands on all the items, basically. Well, I can't. My mortgage is fixed. You know, I got to pay the taxes. But you know what's not fixed? You made a mistake. You need to stand up, and the way to correct it is you need to sell the house. And that sounds kind of tough. But now, when you do that, you can reduce your mortgage, reduce your expenses, et cetera. So we need to take a look at this. I know there's lots of problems here. Kindergarten, for example. How long have we gone without having it? Now, maybe this year we need to postpone that for another year. This fall, they're going to look at, in the state, and I hope to keep on pushing that, they're going to look at the committee to look at possibly, again, looking at this 22 years left to go, to maybe expand it in some way. That's something we should be looking for. Don't lock ourselves in to a budget today. Give us some more flexibility. We're at the top of it. We need to start down the other side, not just this city, but many towns and many cities across the country. Thank you very much.
Peter Kelleher.
Good evening. I'm Peter Kelleher, President and CEO of Harbor Homes Incorporated. I made a full presentation about the Safe Station program before the Budget Committee. And so I'm here tonight just to try to amplify or answer any questions that anyone may have about our request. I just would like to thank the support of the city and the fire department, the ambulance, and everybody that has really stepped up for this very innovative and effective program. We just received some additional sort of bonus information from Southern New Hampshire Health Systems that in the first 5 months of this calendar year, the number of persons that have shown up in the emergency department for overdoses has been decreased by 13% since we started the program. So I think that's another sort of dividend that's very much related to the operation of this program. And you know, there's many things that we can say about it, but we're all very proud of the results and proud of the opportunity to work in such close partnership with everybody that's playing a key role here. So with that, I would answer any questions. I think it's just a very great program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Petitions,
There are none?
nominations, appointments, and elections.
There are none.
Reports of committees. If there are no objections, the reports of the Budget Review Committee of May 22nd, May 30th, May 31st, June 1st, and June 8th, 2017 will be accepted and placed on file. If there are no objections, the report of the Finance Committee of June 7th, 2017 will be accepted and placed on file. If there are no objections, the report of the Committee on Infrastructure of May 24th, 2017 will be accepted and placed on file. If there are no objections, the report of the Human Affairs Committee of May 23rd, 2017 will be accepted and placed on file. If there are no objections, the report of the Personnel and Administrative Affairs Committee of June 6th, 2017 will be accepted and placed on file. And lastly, if there are no objections, the report of the Planning and Economic Development Committee of May 16th, 2017 will be accepted and placed on file. Written reports from liaisons.
There are none?
Confirmation of the mayor's appointments.
Business and Industrial Developmental Development Authority.
Alderman LeBrun.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I motion to confirm by voice vote the reappointment of the following individuals to the Business and Industrial Development Authority. David Dennehy, 56 Sherry Ann Avenue, Nashua, for a term to expire September 1st, 2019. John Stabile, 48 Lutheran Drive, Nashua, for a term to expire September 13th, 2019. And Mark Prohlman, 70 Crestwood Drive, Hollis, for a term to expire April 30th, 2020.
Motion is to confirm by voice vote the reappointment of the following individuals to the Business and Industrial Development Authority. David Dennehy, 56 Sherry Ann Lane, Nashua, for a term to expire September 1st, 2019. John Stabile, 48 Lutheran Drive, Nashua, for a term to expire September 13th, 2019. And Mark Prohlman, 70 Crestwood Drive, Hollis, for a term to expire April 30th, 2020. Is there any discussion of that motion? If not, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Wilshire. Yes. Alderman Clemmons. Yes. Alderman Dean.
Yes.
Alderman Cookson.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderman Karen.
Yes.
Alderman Siegel.
Yes.
Alderman Shoneman.
Yes.
Alderwoman Malizi Gola.
Yes.
Alderman McGinnis.
Yes.
Alderman LeBrun.
Yes.
Alderman Moriarty.
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman McCarthy.
Yes.
We have 15 yeas.
Motion carries, and David Dennehy, John Stabile, and Mark Prohlman are duly appointed to the Business and Industrial Development Authority for the aforementioned terms. Are any of those individuals present? They will be sworn in at a later date.
Conservation Commission.
Alderman Lopez.
I'd like to make a motion to confirm by voice vote the appointment of Michael Ranka, 2 Quincy Street, Nashua, as an alternate member to the Conservation Commission for a term to expire December 31st, 2017.
Motion is to confirm by voice vote the appointment of Michael Renka, 2 Quincy Street, Nashua, as an alternate member to the Conservation Commission for a term to expire December 31st, 2017. Is there any discussion? If not, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Dean.
Yes.
Alderman Cookson.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderman Karen.
Yes.
Alderman Siegel.
Yes.
Alderman Shoneman.
Yes.
Alderwoman Malizi Gola.
Yes.
Alderman McGinnis.
Yes.
Alderman LeBrun.
Yes.
Alderman Moriarty.
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman McCarthy.
Yes.
We have 15 yeas.
Motion carries, and Michael Renka is appointed to the Conservation Commission for a term to expire December 31st, 2017. Is Mr. Renka here? He will also be sworn in at a later date.
Downtown Improvement Committee.
Alderman Clemmons?
Thank you. I move to confirm the reappointment of the following individuals to the Downtown Improvement Committee for terms to expire December 31st, 2019. Ron LaFleur, 2 Garden Street, Nashua. Cy Mahfouz, 227.5 Main Street, Nashua. And Simon Saris, 142 Main Street, Nashua.
Motion is to confirm by voice vote the reappointment of the following individuals to the Downtown Improvements Committee for terms to expire December 31st, 2019. Ron LaFleur, 2 Garden Street, Nashua. Cy Mahfouz, 227.5 Main Street, Nashua. And Simon Saris, 142 Main Street in Nashua. Is there any discussion of that motion? If not, would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Dean.
Yes.
Alderman Cookson.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderman Karen.
Yes.
Alderman Siegel.
Yes.
Alderman Shoneman.
Yes.
Alderwoman Malizi Gola.
Yes.
Alderman McGinnis.
Yes.
Alderman LeBrun.
Yes.
Alderman Moriarty.
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman McCarthy.
Yes.
We have 15 yeas.
Motion carries, and Ron LaFleur, Cy Mahfouz, and Simon Saris are appointed to the Downtown Improvements Committee for terms to expire December 31st, 2019. Mr. LaFleur, would you come forward for the oath of office?
Do raise your right hand, please. Do solemnly swear that you will faithfully and impartially discharge
charge and perform all the duties incumbent upon you as a member of the Downtown Improvement Committee of the City of Nashville, according to the best of your abilities, agreeably to the rules and regulations of the city charter and the Constitution and laws of the state. So help you God.
Nashua Arts Commission.
Alderman Karen?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion to confirm by voice vote the appointment of Michael Joseph, 71 High Pine Ave, Nashua, to the Nashua Arts Commission for a term to expire April 1st, 2019.
Motion is to confirm by voice vote the appointment of Michael Joseph, 71 High Pine Avenue, Nashua, to the Nashua Arts Commission for a term to expire April 1st, 2019. Is there any discussion of that motion? Would the clerk please call a roll?
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Dean.
Yes.
Alderman Cookson.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderman Karen.
Yes.
Alderman Siegel.
Yes.
Alderman Schöneman.
Yes.
Alderwoman Malizi Gola.
Yes.
Alderman McGinnis.
Yes.
Alderman LeBrun.
Yes.
Alderman Moriarty.
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman McCarthy.
Yes.
We have 15 yeas.
Motion carries, and Michael Joseph is appointed to the Nashua Arts Commission for a term to expire April 1st, 2019. Mr. Joseph here, please come forward. Do solemnly swear you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent on you as a member of the Nashua Arts Committee, agreeably, according to the best of your ability, agreeably to the rules and regulations of the city charter and the Constitution and laws of the state of New Hampshire, so help you God. I do. Unfinished business resolutions.
Second reading of Resolution 16-082, relative to the transfer of $20,000 from Department 194 Contingency, account number 70100, General Contingency, to Department 109 Civic and Community Activities, accounting classification 56, outside agencies, for the purposes of providing funding to Harbor Homes for their role in the Safe Stations program.
Alderman Clemmons?
Thank you. I move to amend R 1682 in its entirety by replacing it with the goldenrod copy provided with the agenda.
Motion is to amend R 16082 in its entirety by replacing it with the goldenrod copy provided with the agenda. And would you like to explain what the amendment is?
Yes, the amendment is increasing the amount from 20,000 to 50,000.
Well heard the motion. Discussion. Alderman Lopez?
I just want to disclose that as a Harbor Homes employee and actually managing the safe station at Maple Street, I will be abstaining from the vote.
Further discussion? Would the clerk please call a roll?
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Dean.
Yes.
Alderman Cookson.
No.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderman Karen. Alderman Siegel.
Yes.
Alderman Schöneman.
Yes.
Alderwoman Malizi Gola.
Yes.
Alderman McGinnis.
Yes.
Alderman LeBrun.
No.
Alderman Moriarty.
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez abstaining. Alderman McCarthy.
Yes.
We have 12 yeas, 2 nays, and 1 abstention.
And that motion carries. Alderman Clemmons?
Thank you. I move for final passage of R 1682 as amended.
Motion is for final passage of R 1682 as amended. Discussion? Alderwoman Wilshire?
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to thank Harbor Homes for stepping up and doing yeoman's work in this effort. I don't know what the city would have done without the support and the treatment opportunities provided by the great folks over at Harbor Homes. Thank you for everything, and we appreciate you stepping up.
Further discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Dean.
Yes.
Alderman Cookson.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderman Karen.
Yes.
Alderman Siegel.
Yes.
Alderman Shoneman.
Yes.
Alderwoman Malizi Gola.
Yes.
Alderman McGinnis.
Yes.
Alderman LeBrun.
No.
Alderman Moriarty.
No.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez, abstaining, and Alderman McCarthy.
Yes.
We have 12 yeas, 2 nays, and 1 abstention.
Motion carries and R-1682 is adopted as amended.
Second reading of Resolution 17-098 relative to the adoption of the fiscal year 2018 proposed budget for the City of Nashua General Enterprise and Special Revenue Funds.
Alderman Wilshire.
Thank you. I move to amend Resolution 17098 by replacing it with a goldenrod copy provided with the agenda.
Motion is to amend R-17-098 by replacing it with the goldenrod copy provided with the agenda. You want to explain what the,
Certainly. The Budget Committee added $191,961 to citywide communications for software maintenance to the citywide communications system. Also, the Budget Committee moved to reduce $200,000 from the mayor's capital improvement participatory budgeting line and put that money into the police overtime expendable trust fund for police overtime in the same amount, $200,000. Those are the amendments
further
incorporated in the
discussion,
goldenrod copy. Sorry.
further discussion of the motion to amend? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Dean.
Yes.
Alderman Cookson.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderman Karen. Alderman Siegel.
Yes.
Alderman Shoneman.
Yes.
Alderwoman Malizi Gola.
Yes.
Alderman McGinnis.
Yes.
Alderman LeBrun.
No.
Alderman Moriarty.
No.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman McCarthy.
Yes.
We have 13 yeas and 2 nays.
Motion carries. Alderman Siegel?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to further amend by deleting in Department 157 Citywide Communications account number 54407, software maintenance, the amount of $191,961. And I'd like to speak on that, if that's okay.
Motion is to further amend by deleting in Department 157 Citywide Communications, account 54407, software maintenance, the amount of $191,961. Alderman Siegel?
Thank you, Mr. President. The mayor alluded to the possibility of funding this out of escrow. I think that there is a feeling that this is clearly necessary. We have to have software maintenance on our critical communication systems. But I think that there probably could use a little bit of extra time in vetting this out a bit. Maybe we can get the contract down. I know Mr. Mansfield's been working on this, so if we just throw that money over the top, what we've done is effectively increase the budget. Now, the moving of the $200,000 into the police expendable trust fund for overtime has very, very broad support, and it doesn't change the amount of money that we have in the budget. This particular line item does. And so I would suggest that we all, based on the discussions in the budget committee meetings, we all agreed, I believe it was unanimous, in fact, that we agreed this was an important line item and an unfortunate mistake to have left it out. It was just one of those things that sometimes happens. But let's not do this now tonight. So I would urge us to remove this as per my motion, if that pleases the board, and pick it up later.
Further discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Wilshire. Yes. Alderman Clemmons.
No.
Alderman Dean.
Yes.
Alderman Cookson.
No.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderman Karen.
Yes.
Alderman Siegel.
Yes.
Alderman Shoneman.
Yes.
Alderwoman Malizi Gola.
Yes.
Alderman McGinnis.
Yes.
Alderman LeBrun.
Yes.
Alderman Moriarty.
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman McCarthy.
Yes,
We have 13 yeas and 2 nays.
and that motion carries. Alderman Siegel?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion for final passage of R 17-098 as amended by roll call and just briefly speak on that if that's okay.
Motion is for final passage of R 17-098 as amended by roll call. Alderman Siegel.
Thank you, Mr. President. So right now, what we're left with is a budget that did one thing. We had the budget that came in. We took the $200,000 Citizens Initiative chunk, and we reallocated it in a way that I think it was unanimous in the Budget Committee that this was more useful for the Police Overtime Trust Fund. We already know that the police are using a lot of money for overtime because we're short on staff and we are not short on crime. And the idea that, well, we're just going to hire more officers actually doesn't work out economically, not to mention the fact that it isn't something we can do immediately. My experience with looking at the expendable trust fund, one of the things, I proposed this, by the way, under the same assumption, and I believe Alderman Wilshire came up with the phrase, I mean, crime is like snow, it's not predictable. But one of the things that when I did propose this, I spoke to Chief Lavoie, and I said, this is not just a fund that you just get to dip into. I'm going to trust that if this fund exists, this is a fund of last resort, where all other means are exhausted. And typically, there's been funding through attrition, funding through other means to make up for the overtime issues. But it isn't enough. That's the bottom line. We just don't have enough, and this really is something that is necessary. And last year it got pretty much exhausted, but I will tell you, the year before it was not touched. So Chief Lavoie met his commitment to us when we voted for this, but we should meet our commitment to them and make sure that the tool is available, because they've already demonstrated that they use it as a very, very last resort. So I would urge that at the current state of the budget right now is unchanged except for this movement. And it's ironic because this budget is going to take 10 votes. And this is one of, frankly, the stupidest things about the charter, is that raising a line item, even by a penny, requires 10 votes, even if you have the same budget amount. So you can make wiser decisions, but be penalized for those wiser decisions. That does not serve the taxpayer. Let's not kid ourselves. Taking that $200,000 and moving it away from a discretionary fund allocated by a bunch of people potentially on Facebook and putting it in where it belongs, in police overtime funding, which protects all of us, is a net benefit. Why would we penalize the taxpayers by not voting for that? So again, that's the only change that's left in this budget right now, and it's a change that was supported unanimously at the Budget Committee. Thank you very much.
Further discussion? Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you. I've weighed this budget out a lot, and it's been a tough decision for me to come to on how I'm going to vote. And the reason for that is because I was extremely disappointed in the school department for basically ignoring the requests of some aldermen, the community, as well as the mayor, and going forward, and with the layoffs of several custodians and a curriculum coordinator. I think that this is going to be to the detriment of our schools. I think that every one of those positions are necessary, and it's unfortunate that they are being cut. Just so that the public knows, when I first heard about the budget cuts, I went to the mayor's office, and I told him that, I thought that it was a shame that in an economy like we're in, that we would be laying people off. And he agreed, and went to the school board and actually gave the school board an extra percentage over what they had proposed to basically not have any layoffs. And the school board ignored the mayor, they ignored me, they ignored the community, and went ahead and spent the money somewhere else. And that, to me, doesn't sit right. Nevertheless, I went on and went to the budget committee last week and fought the good fight to try to see if the budget committee would entertain a motion to increase the budget, just try to save those jobs. But unfortunately, the reality is that even if we were to put that money back into the school department can turn around and spend it any way they want, just as we saw when the mayor gave them a little bit extra to help not lay people off. So with that being said, my first inclination was to not support the budget on principle and say, you know, I'm going to stick with the people that are losing their jobs and vote no. At the last budget committee meeting, however, it became apparent to me that, and I had known this, but the dire situation that the city is in, facing a lawsuit on this potential budget, facing the fact that should that prevail, we could be in for hundreds of layoffs, perhaps a school that would close, fire department would have layoffs, maybe we'd have to close a fire department, police department, same thing. So I really have to weigh my vote. So I'm leaning, I'm going to vote for the budget. But I don't want those individuals who are losing their positions in Nashua to think for 1 minute that I didn't fight for you. I fought for you, I fought for your jobs, and they mean something, you mean something to the city, and your work means something to the city. And it's a mistake that the school board is letting you go. So with that said, I will be supporting the budget, and I'm doing it because doing that is the lesser of two evils. Thank you.
Further discussion, Alderman Lopez?
Just want to thank Alderman Clemmons for his comments and his conviction, as well as Alderman Siegel for the same. I think this budget is not meant to be easy. There's particular items that must not have been easy for people to have to consider. I think it's unfortunate that the Board of Education went the direction that it did with the extra money, and I appreciate the effort on the mayor's part to try to save those jobs.
Alderman Shoneman?
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the comments that are made, and whatever happens with those custodians, I want them to know that I understand that it's not easy to lose a job for anybody at any time, and it is a tough economy, and we'll certainly give them that consideration and know that they served well while they were here. I will not be supporting the budget. I approve of the amendments, and I voted for the amendments. I think that trying to find the citywide communications money at some stage in the future is wise. I think that's a wise expenditure. And I think swapping the $200,000 out of the participatory budgeting into police overtime is probably a good choice, too. I'm not going to support it, though, even though those are good decisions, because there are other things at play here that I think I simply can't support. One is I believe the overall spending is too high, my personal opinion. I think that taxpayers, at least the ones I've heard from, believe that the spending is too high. Secondly, a vote in favor of this budget is really a vote in favor of how we got here, and I do not approve of how we got here. How we got to a budget that's higher, that can pass with 8 votes, now 10 with this, by manipulating the spending cap via the sewer fund, I think was wrong. I did not vote for that measure. I cannot vote for this because of how we got here. I think the spending is somewhat too high, not all too high, but how we got here is wrong, and I cannot support that. Thank you.
Alderman Moriarty.
Thank you, Mr. President. Regarding the layoffs, I'd like to say they have my sympathies. Me and 500 BA Systems who've been laid off in the past 7 years from southern New Hampshire understand what you'll be facing. Regarding the budget, so if we go back this past fall, what I remember hearing is that it was like a $1 or $2 million gap to close. And somehow that $1 or $2 million gap to close turned into a $9 million spending spree. There's a lot of fat in this budget. In particular, you might remember, so when Mayor Lozo was putting together the budget, each year I would sort of wonder how the heck did she manage to close that budget when everything was going up faster than the capital outlay. But what she managed to do was benefits, healthcare in particular, were going down. So for the good 2, 3, 4 years in a row, the benefits, health insurance, were either down or steady. But what we have this year is, for the first time since I remember, we have a $3.7 million increase in that same line, which is a 15% increase, which hasn't happened in a while. In addition, so the pensions, of course, that's the $2.2 million that we've read about that says is out of our control. Okay, I'll grant that. There's a line item in there for salaries, $2.2 million increase contingency for salaries that have not yet, increases that have not yet occurred. So for those of you who aren't sure, some people might be unaware of the mechanics of how that is. There's a contingency negotiation line that is usually a couple $100,000 that is used if there's a contract, union contract negotiation that closes, and then they need to pay salaries retroactively. We transfer it from contingency to salaries to cover it. So that is $2.2 million for salary increases that have not yet occurred. There's $1.3 million in SURF to fill that back up, which needs to happen, but doesn't necessarily need to happen this year. And then, in our favor, we have $1 million that have gone down in debt payments. So you add that all up, it's like $8 million right there. There's your $8 million bucks. There's no need to lay off hundreds of people. But also what I remember from last year, last fall, we kept hearing about how there was going to be full-day kindergarten, and how many times were we told that that full-day kindergarten was not going to cost anything? We were told that by the superintendent of schools that the full-day kindergarten was not going to cost anything. And yet when we read the justification in the newspaper about why all the spending has to go up, the first thing mentioned is full-day kindergarten. So is it free or is it not? And then, of course, we all know about the opioid crisis, which is all over the news. I read a lot about how Granite Hammer is extremely successful, and that's a good thing. But you know who pays for the Granite Hammer? It's the state and federal funding. So we're attacking a crisis, and we're saying we're spending money on it. We're saying we're spending on money on things that we need, and I just itemized 3 or 4 things that simply don't have to be included this year. And again, another sort of just a instinct, gut feeling, big picture sort of comment. Back when that wastewater ordinance passed, or when we were discussing it, the idea that it was going to free up $9 million was an enormous amount of money. And what was the question came before us, or sort of was in our minds, was $9 million. Well, are we going to spend all $9 million? And Alderman Dowd himself, I'm paraphrasing, I didn't get the exact record, but I remember him saying, well, even though we're going to free up $9 million, doesn't necessarily mean we're going to spend all of it. But lo and behold, we did. All $9 million. No, I'm voting no, absolutely.
Further discussion? Alderman Clemmons?
I have a sheet in front of me that says that the amount below the spending cap from general fund changes is $1,726,144, which means that we didn't spend the full $9 million.
Alderman Moriarty?
Budget, page 11 of 339, adopted budget FY 17, proposed budget FY 18. General fund budget, $247 million FY 17, 258 FY 18. The budget increased $11 million. That's fact.
Further discussion of the motion for final passage. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Dean.
Yes.
Alderman Cookson.
No.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderman Karen. Alderman Siegel.
Yes.
Alderman Shinneman.
No.
Alderwoman Malizi Gola.
Yes.
Alderman McGinnis.
No.
Alderman LeBrun.
No.
Alderman Moriarty.
No.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman McCarthy.
Yes.
We have 10 yeas and 5 nays.
10 members of the board having voted in the affirmative, the motion carries and R-17-098 is adopted.
Second reading of Resolution 17-100, authorizing the sale of surplus Broad Street Parkway.
Alderman O'Brien?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion for final passage of R-17-100.
Motion is for final passage of R-17-100. Discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Dean.
Yes.
Alderman Cookson.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderman Karen.
Yes.
Alderman Siegel.
Yes.
Alderman Shinneman.
Yes.
Alderwoman Malizi Gola.
Yes.
Alderman McGinnis.
Yes.
Alderman LeBrun.
Yes.
Alderman Moriarty.
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman McCarthy.
Yes.
We have 15 yeas.
Motion carries and R-17-100 is adopted. Unfinished business ordinances?
Third reading of ordinance 17-035, adopting the all veterans tax credit.
Alderman Cookson?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd move to amend ordinance 1735 in its entirety by replacing it with the goldenrod copy provided with the agenda.
Motion is to amend O-1735 in its entirety by replacing it with the goldenrod copy provided with the agenda. Would you like to explain the amendments?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. President. So the amendment basically is identifying the three values in the 3 years that we have to meet the full $500. So in the first year, it'll be 165. Year 2 is going to be $330, and year 3 will be the $500. I also received information from Corporation Counsel this afternoon indicating that the governor had signed Senate Bill 80 on June 8th, and so that will be the bill's effective date.
Further discussion of the motion to amend? All those, or would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Dean.
Yes.
Alderman Cookson.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderman Karen. Alderman Siegel.
Yes.
Alderman Shinneman.
Yes.
Alderwoman Malizi Gola.
Yes.
Alderman McGinnis.
Yes.
Alderman LeBrun.
Yes.
Alderman Moriarty.
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman McCarthy.
Yes.
We have 15 yeas.
Motion carries. Alderman Cookson?
I would move for final passage of ordinance 1735 as amended.
Motion is for final passage of O-1735 as amended. Discussion? Alderman Lopez?
Just want to clarify that I really wanted to recognize the service the veterans have given by giving them a larger version of the tax credit, but it was clarified to me by much more experienced aldermen that as we have no idea how many people will apply for this, it's just not a good idea to do it until we know how it's going to impact us. It was also left open that we could reevaluate the scales of it as we saw the impact on the city's budget. So we could allow for larger amounts next year.
Alderman Siegel.
Mr. President, while I support this, I do want to point out that I find it ironic that the colleagues that are concerned about spending and impact on the taxpayer will support this, because it is a burden on the taxpayer in a certain sense, although a burden that's a wise one. It's the right thing to do for the group of people that we're talking about here. But it is in fact spending, so let's not ignore that. Despite that, I will vote yes.
Further discussion? Will the clerk please call a roll?
Alderman Wilshire. Yes. Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Dean.
Yes.
Alderman Cookson.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderman Karen.
Yes.
Alderman Siegel.
Yes.
Alderman Schoeneman.
Yes.
Alderwoman Milizi Gola.
Yes.
Alderman McGinnis. Alderman LeBrun.
Yes.
Alderman Moriarty.
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman McCarthy.
Yes.
14 yeas and 1 nay.
Motion carries. No 1735 is adopted as amended.
Second reading of ordinance 17-038, allowing residents on Morgan Street to purchase overnight on-street parking permits.
Alderman Schoeneman.
I'd like to make a motion to amend 017-038 in its entirety by replacing it with the goldenrod copy provided with the agenda, and I can explain the changes.
Motion is to amend 1738 in its entirety by replacing it with a goldenrod copy provided with the agenda. Alderman Schoeneman.
Thank you. The original 017-038 was just to add parking privileges to residents on Morgan Street. It wouldn't allow parking on Morgan Street, but it would allow folks that live on Morgan Street to buy parking passes to live on adjacent areas. At the same time this legislation was going through, there was legislation to add parking on the street for Ash Street from Kinsley Street to Lake Street. And it was determined in the course of conversation that that may not be practical to add parking on that street. So these folks, or this particular section of Ash Street from Kinsley Street to Lake Street was added to this legislation, which allows folks that live in that stretch to buy a permit to park on an adjacent street. It would have been a separate piece of legislation coming through later. In order to expedite it for those folks, we combined it with Morgan Street on 017-038, and that's the reason for the change.
No further discussion of the motion to amend. Would the clerk please call a roll?
Alderman Wilshire.
Yes.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman
Yes.
Dean. Alderman Cookson.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderman Karen. Alderman Siegel. Alderman Schoeneman.
Yes.
Alderwoman Milizi Gola.
Yes.
Alderman McGinnis.
Yes.
Alderman LeBrun.
Yes.
Alderman Moriarty.
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman McCarthy.
Yes.
15 yeas.
Motion carries. Alderman Schoeneman.
I'd like to make a motion for final passage of 017-038 as amended.
Motion is for final passage of 01738 as amended. Discussion? Alderman Lopez.
I just want to clarify for anybody who might be watching, because I've gotten a lot of feedback in the last week or so about places that would like to add on-street parking, that we did ask the city to work on an actual plan for overnight parking as a whole, so that we could address it cohesively, rather than adding small sections at a time that might push the burden of parking or no parking over to nearby streets, so that we could kind of approach the thing collectively.
And just as a note, Alderman Cookson, that was going to be taken up this week, but no longer will be, correct?
It is correct. Our guest speaker is not available and will be available at our meeting in July.
Okay, further discussion of the motion for final passage? If not, would the clerk please call a roll?
Alderman Wilshire. Yes. Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman
Yes.
Dean. Alderman Cookson.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderman Karen. Alderman Siegel.
Yes.
Alderman Schoeneman.
Yes.
Alderwoman Milizi Gola.
Yes.
Alderman McGinnis.
Yes.
Alderman LeBrun.
Yes.
Alderman Moriarty.
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman
Yes.
Lopez.
Oh.
Alderman McCarthy.
Yes.
We have 15 yeas.
The motion carries and 01738 is adopted as amended. New business resolutions.
First reading of Resolution 17-107, authorizing the City of Nashua to enter into contracts with Nashua Community College, Riviera University, Sahegan Valley Transportation Collaborative, Town of Hudson, Town of Merrimack, and the Plus Company for Transit Services.
Additional sponsors, Alderman Lopez, Alderman O'Brien, Alderman Mozigolia, anybody else? And R-17-107 will be assigned to the Finance Committee. New business ordinances.
First reading of ordinance 17-040, authorizing payment of property taxes by credit or debit card.
Additional sponsors, Alderman O'Brien, Alderman Mozigolia, Alderman Wilshire, anybody else? And 01740 will be assigned to the Personnel and Administrative Affairs Committee. Period for general public comment. One person is signed up, Mr. Cutter.
Cutter, 86 Palm Street, City. This is addressed to President McCarthy. Subject is, we want our present 7.5 wide driveway restored to its 10 feet, 3-inch width. Public law is used for a matter between private citizens and the city. Civil law is between individuals. Therefore, our problem would be easy to solve if City Hall would enforce the plat ordinance of November 22nd, 1949, per Section 45 of the City Charter. That plat layout needs to be enforced with the actual dimension for the building permit of May 13th, 1971 for 88 Palm Street. That plat layout gave the Gilbertsons an opening to violate RSA 627:9, number 1, curtilage. The plat layout error by the city building inspector puts the blame on RSA 626:3, effect of ignorance or mistake on the city. In violating curtilage, the Gilbertsons took about 1/3 of the width of our driveway. Now we want the original 10-foot, 3-inch wide width restored. Sincerely, Jim. Thank you.
Remarks by members of the board. I'll start over here. Alderman Cookson.
Just wanted to thank Catherine Poulin, U.S. history instructor over at Nashua High School South, for inviting us to participate in her classes, AP classes presentation this afternoon. It was very well attended by my colleagues and myself, and we thoroughly enjoyed it and appreciated them extending the invitation to my daughter, Alexandra, as well. Also, this weekend, if nobody has plans, the Rock and Rib Fest is taking place on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday up at the Anheuser-Busch facility in Merrimack. For those of you who don't know, it's sponsored by the Nashua West Rotary, and all of the proceeds that come from that event actually make it back into the community as far as scholarships and money that go out to other nonprofits within the community. So anybody who's able to participate and come join us for a great weekend of adult beverages and ribs, we certainly appreciate everything and hope that you'll come join us and have that money go back into our community. Thank you.
I would also thank Mrs. Poulin's class for the invitation. It was a neat presentation. Among other things, they have for the first time created a list in one place of all of the mayors and aldermen that Nashua has ever had. That's an undertaking, I can tell you. I also want to express my condolences to the Hall family on the passage of Jim Hall, our former street superintendent, who I knew for a long time on this board. Committee announcements? Alderman Cookson.
Thank you. And if I may, just pose a question. The only other agenda item that was going to be discussed tomorrow evening was sponsored by Alderman Dean. It's authorizing the city to enter into an agreement and consent to joint use with Eversource. And I wanted to make sure that somebody was going to be there to represent that piece of legislation for discussion.
Alderman Dean, will you be at infrastructure tomorrow?
I will not be. That piece of legislation pertains to the easement near the new skate park location, located directly behind the salt structure at Public Works down by the street department. It's just an updated easement, that's all it is. If you'd like to table it until I can attend in July, that would be fine. If not, the explanation I just gave, I believe Attorney Bolton could weigh in on it as well. If you'd like that, Alderman Cookson, but if not, you can table it until July or cancel your meeting, whatever you, there's no sense of urgency right now, as far as I know. Attorney Bolton might have, you might want to ask him if he's there.
Thank you, Alderman Dean. Through you, Mr. President, to Attorney Bolton.
I know of no emergency that should disrupt the suggestion of Alderman Dean that you wait.
Thank you very much.
I sense a committee announcement.
In that vein, if nobody else has any other items for infrastructure, we will postpone that until our July meeting.
Alderman Lopez?
Yeah, I think I missed my cue for the remarks. I just wanted to announce on June 21st, we're having a vigil, the longest day vigil. It's the longest day of the year, and it's to memorialize or remember the people that we've lost to addiction, and also to support people who are struggling with it and trying to live one day at a time. And then also on June 24th, on Saturday, we're having the Tree Streets Block Party. So we have a band, Hunter, playing in Los Amigos Park on Ash Street. We have a vendor fair. We have a nonprofit carnival for kids. There will be free food and a skateboarding demonstration by Eastern Borders. So everyone's welcome to come. That's June 24th from 1 to 5 on Ash Street.
Alderwoman Melizzi-Golden.
Yes, PEDC next Tuesday here in the chamber.
Any further announcements? Is there a motion? Alderman Wilshire. Motion is to adjourn. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Wilshire. Yes. Alderman Clemmons. Yes. Alderman Dean. Yes. Alderman Cookson.
Yes.
Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Alderman Karen. Yes. Alderman Siegel.
Yes.
Alderman Schoeneman.
Yes.
Alderwoman Melizzi-Gola.
Yes.
Alderman McGinnis.
Yes.
Alderman LeBrun.
Yes.
Alderman Moriarty.
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien.
Yes.
Alderman Lopez.
Yes.
Alderman McCarthy.
Yes.
We have 15 yeas.
Motion carries, and we are adjourned at 8:51.
Good night, Alderman Dean. Good night, Alderman Dowd.